Okay, just a few people still coming in. But for those of you who don't know me, my name's Jeff Hart. I am the Deputy Principal for Senior Secondary at the school, and I'll pretty much keep tonight rolling through. We're hoping tonight that we keep the speaking at you to a minimum so that you can have some time at the end to talk to our heads of department and the different people that you want to ask questions of. I guess the most important thing about nights like this and leading into next week with set planning is to make sure that yourselves and your students are asking as many questions as possible from the right people. And the right people could be anyone from their classroom teacher to their head of department, to the guidance counsellor, to the mechanic that lives across the road, or the electrician up the street. They are the people that you need to talk to in order to get your head around what your pathway might be and what you need to do to get there. So without me prattling on too much, I will hand over to our principal, Phil Reid, who will do his principal's welcome.
Thank you very much. Disappointing, I thought I had a 45-minute time slot, but clearly not. Talk about disappointing. Look, good evening everyone. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedules to come along and listen to some information tonight, and importantly interact with us, work with us, and we will work with you on our agreed pathways moving forward. As mentioned, my name is Phil Reid, the acting principal. Unfortunately, my time comes to an end here on Friday, but Dr. Russell will be back at Dalby State High School on Monday. So thank you very much for that. Before I begin, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land in which we meet tonight. Also, I'd like to pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, for they hold the memories, the traditions, the culture and hopes of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples across the state. Look, there's going to be a lot of information coming your way tonight. Please don't hesitate to ask questions. You'll learn a lot about acronyms. We're great at acronyms in the senior phase of learning, but this is a very, very exciting time as we plan together a pathway forward for our young people. And there are so many pathway options available to our students here at Dalby State High School in the senior phase of learning. So you'll learn a lot about those tonight. So again, welcome, thank you for coming. I know the Olympics are still going, so we're keen to sort of get home and have a bit of a look and see how Australia's tracking, but thank you again.
Thanks, Phil. Our first speaker tonight is our Head of Department, Senior Secondary, David Schreiber. David's role, this school, one of the most important parts of his role is to make sure that our students are on the right pathway, that if they're a QCE student, that they are going as well as they possibly can to make sure that they achieve the QCE. He'll talk more about that. But he also is a big part of, I guess, the culture of our senior school. So we see him around at various, mainly year 11 and 12, but sometimes year 10 events. And tonight he'll introduce to you, I guess, the 2025 and 2026 pathway for our students.
Okay, QCE, I live and die by it sometimes, also potentially die by it, but that's fine. So there's you guys in the, and I'm going to be talking to the students more so than the parents, because the parents the students are going to be living and breathing this for the next 2 years, and the parents are going to be supporting them on their journey just like the school is. Okay, so there's some changes in year 11 and 12. You're entering the post-compulsory phase of learning, which means you're choosing to be at school. Okay, up until this stage you have to be at school, but now you're choosing to be here and you're going to be engaging in your learning and working towards our goals. Okay, and the government says that you've got to be learning or earning until you're 17. So there's some legal ramifications, or there's some expectations on what happens when you enter year 11 and 12. Okay, but the primary goal is your Queensland Certificate of Education, and this is Queensland's senior schooling qualification. It's internationally recognised and a sign of academic and personal success. And students can choose a pathway that's right for them, whether it's going to university in year 13, finding skilled work, or attending TAFE or some other training. Okay, so there's many pathways, but the core is the Year 12 certificate, which is QCE. And I'm going to talk to you not in depth about the QCE, but there's a 182-page document that you can happily read before you go to sleep tonight. That's just on the QCAA website, or you can Google QCE, QCIA, and you'll be able to download it there. Okay, so QCE, set amount, 20 credits, all right? Set standard, so a C or higher, and a competent vet qualification. It's in a set pattern, which means you get 12 credits from completed core, and you have to get a literacy tick by passing Unit 1 or 2 and 3 and 4 of an English subject, and a numeracy tick by passing Unit 1 or 2 or 3 and 4 of a math subject. So that's the crux of it. If any one of those elements is missing, your son or daughter or student won't be successful in their QCE attainment. All right? So if they fail math all the way through, they won't get their numeracy tick, even if they have 20 credits, even if they have completed core and a literacy tick. All right? Or vice versa, if they don't get their literacy tick, but they get their numeracy, they get their completed core, and they've got 20 credits. If that's missing, there's no QCE. All right? How do you get credits? Through studying subjects in vet courses. QCAA have some subjects, obviously, general subjects and applied subjects, and QCAA short courses and vet courses. So if you do a Cert 2 in a vet course, it's typically 4 credits, depending on duplication, and if you do a Cert 3, it's up to 8 credits. General subjects are for ATAR pathways, they're the harder subjects, and applied subjects are the more practical subjects. Alright, so general subjects are for tertiary study, applied subjects are more practical and prepare students for further training and work. Both contribute to a QCE. Some terminology that is going to be second-hand nature to the Year 11 students next year is QCAA, Queensland's Curriculum and Assessment Authority. Everything's governed by them. All right, so we have to maintain the integrity of their system. Units, we talk now in Year 10 about terms and semesters. In Year 11 and 12, we talk units. Unit 1, Unit 2, Unit 3 and 4. Okay? We talk MyQCE, which is the online tracking system to see if students are eligible for their QCE. And the big thing also is ARA, access arrangements and reasonable adjustments. Up until this point, if students in Year 10 need an extension or an alternate setting or something different to a normal assessment piece, they go to their curriculum HOD, they sign off on it and say, yep, happy days, you can do your assignment. Because you've been in hospital for a week, you can do your assignment a week later or 2 weeks later or whatever. Okay? In Year 11 and 12, that's governed through the ARA process, which Dom, our guidance officer, is going to talk later tonight about. Okay. Assessment for Units 1 and 2. Students studying a general or applied subject will be assessed on Units 1 and 2 for every subject they study. This occurs in Year 11. Each unit will typically consist of 2 pieces of assessment and may be an assignment, multimodal, presentation, project, practical piece or an exam. General subjects typically run for 15 weeks per unit and applied subjects run for 20 weeks. So in Year 11, in week 5 of term 2, for a general, if you're doing general English, you'll finish Unit 1. And then literally the next day, the next lesson, you'll be starting Unit 2 work. Okay, so gone are the days of students saying to their parents or carers, we're not doing anything this week because we've just had our exam and we're going to have a week's holiday or a week or a day or two off, okay? They are literally into the next piece of content for their next unit. And applied subjects are typically 20 weeks, so they do follow the semesters. Okay. Assessment for units 3 and 4. So if you're doing general subjects, they typically start at the end of year 11. And there's 3 internal assessments and 1 external assessment. So the 3 internal assessments are set and marked by the school, and the 1 external assessment is set and marked by QCAA. So QCAA actually deliver, whether you're at Dalby State High School, Roma, wherever, they deliver the exam, the external assessment, and every student who does general English will sit at the end of year 12 their general English exam on the exact same day, on the exact same time, with the exact same conditions. In most subjects, the external assessment accounts for 25%, except of course for our nice math and science subjects where the external assessment accounts for 50%. Okay, so that's a pretty big change in year 12 for general subjects is IA 1, 2 and 3, which is internal assessment. The total of those first 3 only account for math and science for the 50%. And then the external exam counts for the other 50% of the exam. And that's the reason why we do general subjects 15 or 15 weeks and then 15 weeks is to give students and teachers the time to prepare for the external exam at the end of year 12. Applied subjects have 4 internal assessments set and marked by the school, all right? And except for essential math and essential English, they have 1 piece that's set by the QCAA, and that's called a common internal assessment, which is normally their IA2, all right? All the general subjects go away to QCAA for verification, and then if they deem that our marking is inconsistent or something, they will adjust the marks accordingly, all right? So QCAA are very much involved in year 11 and 12 for the integrity of student outcomes. Right, so that's basically QCE in a nutshell. I could literally talk for hours on QCE, but you'll be sleeping. How do we track it? Year 10s are going to do their set plan next week, all right? In their My QCE student management, this student's chosen accounting, biology, English, general math and legal studies. On the right-hand side, they've got units 1, 2, 3 and 4. So they've got 5 subjects. They're eligible for an ATAR, which I'll get to soon. All going well, if they pass each unit, they'll get 20 credits, they'll get their completed core, they'll get their literacy and numeracy tick. Happy days, they're on their way. When we talk about QCE in Unit 1 and 2, it's a pass or fail. All right, so if I'm doing general English and I get an A+ for Unit 1 and Donald sitting beside me gets a C-, we still both get the same result in QCAA, which is a satisfactory, all right? One's obviously more prepared for the future units 3 and 4, but in Unit 1 and 2, it's either a pass or fail, that's it. It's a satisfactory or an unsatisfactory. And how that looks is like this. Student, they've passed accounting, Unit 1 and Unit 2, they've got satisfactory. Biology, English, general math, legal studies, they've all passed, except for English here, Unit 2, they've got an unsatisfactory, so they failed, okay? That's in Year 11 up till the end of Term 3. Then we go into the results for the internal assessments, which is, so for example, accounting, they've got 4 pieces, they all count for 25%. and we go into a numerical number system, because when they calculate their ATAR, it's based on the Unit 3 and 4 results. Okay? So that's how we track it in my QCE. So this student here will only get 19 credits because they failed Unit 2 of General English. They exited on a pass. They exited on a pass for all their subjects, so they get 2 credits for Unit 3 and 4 per subject. So they need to do some intervention, all right, or some support strategies, which we do a first aid course, which gives them 2 credits. Right? They actually enrol in a Cert 3 in fitness, or it used to be a Cert 3 in landscaping and gardening, and then they do 4 units of competency and they get 2 credits. QCAA haven't shut the door on that strategy yet, which I'm sure they will at some point in time. So yeah, this student is going fine. What's important to note at this juncture is a student, not that this student really did, 12 out of 25 for English. Okay? 12 out of 25 for English in my old calculations would be a fail, all right? Because it's not quite halfway. 50% pass, okay? In QCAA land, this student got 45 out of 100, which in my olden day schools would have been a fail, would have been a D+, all right? In QCAA land with the bell curve and all that sort of stuff, 45 out of 100 for English is actually a pass. It may not always be a pass though. Okay, there will be a time in my prediction that at some point in time, 50% will be a pass for every subject. It literally depends on the bell curve and how many people, if the pass rate is 45 or if it's 49, how many people will pass that subject and how many people will not. Will the career male be knocking on the door of QCAA with a pass rate of 49 or 40? Okay, so it's literally to see the best interest of a student, obviously, but how many people pass or fail given a certain rate. So you can see in general math, for example, a C63. That could be a high C. Okay, legal studies 50 to pass, and so on. So this student is ATAR eligible, and they got their QCE because they also did their first aid in Year 12, which gives them a qualification that they can actually take out to their workplace as well. Non-ATAR student, all right, so Year 10 student comes in and goes, you know what, Mr. Schreiber, I don't want to go to university, I'm going to do my Year 12 certificate, and then I'm going to go and find out what life is all about. They've chosen Essential English, Essential Math, Business Studies, Hospitality, Industrial Graphic Skills. Still QCE eligible if they pass all 4 units of the 5 subjects. There's actually ticks on those boxes over there. They're marked a little bit differently, okay? They're not actually a numerical system in Unit 3 and 4 for Year 12. So again, Essential English, or for all of them, you'll either get a satisfactory or unsatisfactory for Unit 1. You'll either, and then when you go on to end of Year 11, Year 12, you will get an A to E rating for applied subjects, okay? Whereas back here, for general subjects, you've got a numerical, and then it transpired into an A to E rating based on QCAA. In applied subjects, you get an A to E rating based on your assignment or your project or whatever piece of assessment is. And then we actually allocate the pass or the A to E exit result or the final result, okay? And students doing an applied subject will know that before they finish at the end of Year 12 after the external exam block. Okay, so what do you take away from the QCE? Because I'm finished talking about QCE, I think. Very short version of it. Number one, choose your subjects wisely. Okay? Keep the doors open, but choose them wisely. All right? I would love to have been a doctor, all right, but everyone in this room would not want me to be your doctor, okay? Because I'm not smart enough to be a doctor, okay? They get paid a lot of money, but there's a lot of risk there. So yes, be realistic in your expectation, and because every decision has a consequence. It can be good, and it can be a bad consequence. Which leads me on to subject changes, all right? Subject changes in year 10 used to or happen at the end of term 1 or the end of semester 1 or term 3 and then we move on. All right? Subject changes in year 11 and 12 happen at certain junctures with a form and a phone call. Okay? So at the end of the unit. So if biology finished in week 15 of semester 1, right? That's when the subject change happens, if you want out of biology. Or it happens within the first 2 weeks of the Unit 1 or Unit 2. All right, so Mr. Donnan's here tonight. Excellent. Okay, so way back when I was sitting up in HLB block, I had Mr. Donnan as my physics teacher. I knew after the first lesson I was out of physics. All right? I didn't sit in physics for the next 15 weeks or the next term or the next semester back then and then change, all right? Because I knew I was going to fail physics, all right? Didn't have the ability. So subject changes are vital to QCE rules and regulations. Once you start units 3 and 4, you're in it till the end, okay? Because units 3 and 4 for QCE calculation, it's a pigeon pair. You either get 2 credits or you get 0. Okay, so this person back here, if they failed, let's say they got 40, let's say 40 was a fail for accounting, they wouldn't get their 2 QCE credits for unit 3 and 4 for accounting if they failed those 2 units. They'd get 2 for the unit 1 and unit 2, and then they'd get 0 for unit 3 and 4, okay? Even though you could say technically they nearly passed unit 3, there is no unit 3, okay? It's 3 and 4. So that's why we say when we get to subject changes, once you're a certain way through unit 3, i.e. the 2-week mark, you're in it for the rest of it. The only little asterisk I'll say there is unless from a general subject to an applied subject and they haven't started unit 3 and 4. Okay? Because their timing's a little bit out because of the 15 weeks versus the 20 and 20 weeks for the units. Okay, I'm going to give you just a couple of examples on subject changes and completed core. So this person started in general English. They passed unit 1 and 2. Then they came and booked an appointment with me and said, Mr. Schreiber, I do not want to proceed in general English. Don't like it, I want to go to essential English. They passed unit 3 and 4 in essential English. They're going to get 2 credits from general English for unit 1 and 2, and they're going to get 2 credits for essential English for units 3 and 4. Those 4 credits will count for completed core, okay? For CC, not Canadian Club. For completed core. General math, they started in general math. They failed unit 1, okay? And then they transferred into essential math. They passed unit 2, and then they passed unit 3 and 4 for essential math. They get 3 credits for essential math, and those 3 credits count for completed core. They get 0 for general math because they failed unit 1, all right? Any change in English and any change in math, QCAA give you an automatic relaxation of core. They're in hospitality. They passed unit 1 and 2 and they got an A for 3 and 4. They get 4 QCE credits and those 4 count for completed core. They're in health, and this is where the difference comes in from English and math. They're in health, they passed unit 1, they failed unit 2, then they did a subject change and they went into sport and rec, okay? They got an A for sport and rec, so they'll get 2 credits for sport and rec unit 3 and 4, and they'll get 1 credit for health in unit 1. Not one of those 3 credits will count for completed core, because it's a subject change from one to a different area. Okay, the only relaxation of core that you get is from English to essential English, or general math to essential math, or any change in math levels. Okay, so when we talk about 12 completed core, subject changes directly impact the completed core component of of the QCE. They were in business studies, they got 4 credits, they passed all the way through, so they get 4 completed core. Okay, because they passed English and math, their total here is going to be 18 for QCE credits, because they've only failed 2 units, and their completed core is going to be 15. Alright, so subject changes can happen, and they can happen successfully so long as students are passing. Alright, which is the aim of the game. Alright. And again, this person here, they did the first aid course, and then they would get 2 credits, and then that 18 would go to 20. All right, so their QCE Year 12 certificate, happy days, they've got it. If this person failed more, all right, and they needed some more QCE support or intervention, we've got a number of options. All right, and at the moment they are Cert 2 Health Support Services, Cert 2 Skills for Work and Vocational Pathways, and like I said, you enrol in the Cert 3 in Fitness, also known as First Aid, and you complete 4 competencies for 2 QCE credits. The first 2, Health Support Services, or the Cert 2s, successful completion will be up to 4 credits. All right. So this is a support measure for students whose journey hasn't gone as expected, all right? Because the minimum that we're aiming for is our Year 12 certificate, all right? Because you don't want to get to the end of 13 years or 12 years of study and then not get your Year 12 certificate, all right? So that's QCE explained. So my job, I'm literally interviewing all the Year 12s at the moment to talk about their QCE and their Year 13 destination and what they're going to be doing. So I closely monitor every unit result per subject per student. All right, and at the moment we've got about 140-ish students in Year 12, and this Year 10 cohort is a lot more than that. All right, which is good. Great. Okay, so that's QCE. So the takeaway from this is don't stress about it, because it's all up here in my head. All right, and it's in that 180-page document that you're going to go download tonight and read before you go to sleep. Yes. You can probably get it on audio too if you like. Okay, so ATAR. So QCE Year 12 certificate is the base. If you're doing an ATAR pathway, it's the most traditional way to get into university. It's not the only way, right? So we need to remember that ATAR is not the only way to get into university, and to be a little bit controversial, is probably in the decline. All right, back in 1996, if you wanted to get to university, you had to do an OP. All right, and if you didn't get your OP, you didn't go to university. All right, until you became a mature age student or whatever. This way now, universities want your money. All right, so they're going to work with you to get you to university if you want to go to university. Okay. But in the traditional way, to be on an ATAR pathway, you study 5 general subjects, or you study 4 general subjects and 1 applied, or you study 4 general subjects and 1 Cert 3 or higher. Okay? And that will automatically give you an ATAR. All right? So long as you pass English. All right? So I can do 5 general subjects and I can fail English and I will not get an ATAR. All right? if I do 4 general subjects and I study essential English, right? This sounds interesting, but we can do math methods, physics, chemistry, biology, and essential English, and you'll get an ATAR, all right? Because your sciences and your maths are your strong point. Your English is no good. You will still get an ATAR. You won't necessarily meet the prerequisite of a university course though, which is just that little asterisk above the you must pass in English to get an ATAR, and you must meet the prerequisites of a course to get into university. Alright? ATAR is also only calculated on units 3 and 4. Alright, so unit 1 and 2 solely for QCE and the foundation knowledge to go into units 3 and 4. Alright, because once you do unit 1's assumed knowledge, unit 2 comes on, and you use some knowledge from unit 1 and the new stuff from unit 2, and then units 3 and 4, unit 1 and 2 is now all assumed. So it's assumed that you know it all up there from unit 1 and 2. Alright? ATARs are calculated 2,000 point scale, 99.95 being the highest, down to 0. It goes up in increments of 0.05. If you're unlucky enough to get an ATAR of less than 30, they don't publish your number, they just say you're below 30. Alright? For whatever reason. Okay, so admission to university, most traditional, however, there's many other ways. There's early entry, there's Head Start courses, and there's uni prep courses if you change your career path along the way. Right, so that's me for the moment. QCE and ATAR. Dom is going, I can introduce Dom if you like. Okay, Dom is going to talk to you about ARA. So just as important as QCE is, ARA is. Okay, because if you don't follow the... Absolutely. Does anyone have any questions? Excellent. No questions? Fantastic. Yep.
Can you go back?
Oh.
Keep going. That one.
This one.
Now, down here where you've got English,
Yes.
did you say to us that we needed to get 50% in the actual external exam?
No. No. Good question though. So I said that there'll come a time that 50% exit results is going to be a pass. All right. So this student here, they got 12 out of 25, 12 and then 11. They only got 10 out of 25 for the external. However, those 4 results add up to 45, and in QCAA land, that was a pass.
Right.
All right. So students at the moment, like Year 12s at the moment, are freaking out because this student here, for example, in general math, they got 15 out of 20, which is an assignment. They loved it. They got 6 out of 15. They didn't like their exam, and then they got 9 out of 15. So they're sitting on 30 out of 50, which is actually pretty good. And then they get 33 out of 50. So you can go into an external exam and already be passing that subject, or you can go into an external exam and I can be sitting here, trust me, this happened a couple of years ago, saying to a student, you've got to pull out a miracle from somewhere to pass this subject, because in your external exam, and let's talk about science because 50% was their external, I said you've got to pull out 30 out of 50 to pass, because they only got 20 out of 50 for their IA 1, 2 and 3.
Okay,
all right? So it's a combination of all 4 results.
Right.
Yep.
So they did really well in the class, but then they went in with much more. They can sort of relax a bit.
Yes. Yep.
They don't have to get 50. They just have to get...
Yes, so classic example is English at the moment. I've interviewed 30 Year 12 students, and the ones who are doing English, they've already done 75% of their result. 25, 25, 25. And some of them are going into the external exam with 60 out of 75. They don't actually need to pass that external exam. They can literally write their name, they won't. They can write their name on the piece of paper and write one word and get 0 out of 25 and still exit that subject with a pass. The only thing they can't do is go, well, you know what, I'm not going to that exam. Because then they'll get an NR and then it stuffs everything up. Yeah. Yes?
Was, you used to do the certificate 3s in tourism, just...
Cert 2, yes? Yeah, you're right.
Tourism,
Yep.
just as a precautionary thing for everybody to try and help them
Yep.
make sure they had it just in case.
Yes.
Do you still do that now with this new fitness one?
We do. It changed a little bit this year for the year 10s, but the Wednesday of next year potentially could be a Cert 2 day, yes, or as a preemptive one, yes.
So the current year 10s haven't missed out on doing that?
No, they haven't yet, no. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. All good? Any other questions while we're on the QC? No? Good. Or not good. I love questions. Okay, Dom. Good luck.
G'day, my name's Dom. I'm one of the 2 guidance officers that we have here at the school. Unfortunately, the other one couldn't be here tonight. And I'm going to talk to you about ARAs. ARAs are going to become your best friends moving forward. So ARAs are access arrangements and reasonable adjustments. So they, as it says up there, enable equitable access to assessment by minimising barriers that impact on a young person's capacity to read, respond to or participate in assessment, or they enable students experiencing barriers to be assessed on the same basis as other students. And I'll go through those barriers in a second. If you're like me who likes reading really long, boring passages of policy, ARAs, in there it will state that it's based on the current functional impact on the condition on the individual student in assessment, and I'll touch on that a little bit later as well. So what are some potential barriers that could qualify you for an ARA? So we have long-term and chronic conditions, so these are things like hearing or vision impairment, ADHD, ASD, any specific learning disorders, diabetes or physical impairment. These can be mental health conditions, so anxiety or depression, short-term conditions which may improve over a period of time. So these are things like broken limbs if you have to do a practical exam for PE, or down the bottom is illness, so flu-like symptoms, gastro, or misadventure, so flooding, or if there's something like a death of a close family member. So ARAs fall into these 3 pretty broad categories, so they're permanent, temporary, or intermittent, and we have a bunch of categories there for ARAs as well. So, as I said, these are adjustments to your assessment. So, like I said before, if you've broken your ankle, we're not going to make you try and do a running assessment for PE, that wouldn't be fair. So we put in place an ARA, so that's an adjustment to whatever assessment you have. So the important thing is not every student with a barrier is going to qualify for an ARA, because not every student will need one. So it comes back to that thing about what is the functional impact on your assessment. So some common adjustments that we see quite often are extensions. So if you have the flu on the day of your assessment, then we can provide an ARA to arrange it at a different time. Alternative format papers, if you struggle with reading really small text, we can get it enlarged for you. Extra time or rest breaks on exams, varied seating, so sometimes we have students who do their exams in different spaces, or assistive technology. So if you've broken your dominant arm, we can provide technology such as a computer for you to write or type up your assessment instead of forcing you to write it down. With ARAs, the really, really important thing is you need documentation. Do not come in on the day of and say, I've been sick for the past week and not have a medical certificate. It makes it really, really tricky for us. So make sure you are getting any documentation that you need. For the more extensive ARAs, we're going to need, we may need a medical report from a GP. So that's those things, if you have any of those potential barriers that we spoke about before, like those long-term conditions, make sure that there is documentation that is made available to the school so that we can provide those ARAs. Some of these ARAs are approved at a school level. However, some of them are approved by the QCAA, so we have to send off documentation as well, and if we don't have all the appropriate things, they will come back and ask why they're not there. So it's really, really important that we have them. So, if you think you might need an ARA in place for yourself or for your student, make sure that you are coming to have a chat with the GO. So the sooner we do this, the better. So if you think you might need those adjustments for those Year 12 assessments, come and speak to us in Year 11 so we can put them in place. Come and chat to either myself or to Ms Thompson, the other GO, and make sure that you are gathering any information that you need now, so then by the time it comes to do your ARA, it's already there. There has been issues with some people gathering information at other schools and it not being processed in time, and for some subjects there is a cut-off. So make sure if you do think that this might be something that you need, come and talk to us sooner rather than later so we're not put in that really difficult position. And if you want to Google QCAA and Google ARAs, there is a massive handbook. It's too many pages long, but if you really want to read that, you can find just fact sheets on this, and there are lots of videos and webinars online related to ARA. So if you're unsure, go and have a look or come and have a chat, really is the main message from us. What's really important is to go through what ARAs don't include. So English language difficulties is not enough to qualify you for an ARA. If your teacher has been away or you have teacher-related difficulties, again, that doesn't qualify you for an ARA. Matters that the student could have avoided. If you misread your exam timetable, if you misread the instructions in your exam and you do it all wrong, that's not going to qualify you for an ARA. And the biggest one that they speak about every year, matters of the students' or parents' own choosing. Family holidays. If you say, I'm going away to Disney and I need to get a I will say, bring me back. You are not getting So it's really important. If you do know a holiday coming up, speak to the school, speak to the college, because it's not going to qualify you for an RR going overseas or going. And that's the same representative sport. Any of those other activities you choose to do is going to put you away from school. They are not going to qualify you for an RR if you don't choose. Or something like matters that school could have avoided. So if you do the wrong thing and we stuff up, it may not qualify you for an RR, but we won't do that. I promise we will do everything we can. With that current functional impact, that's really important because if you have, say, a bad leg and you come to us and ask us to get a laptop for writing things out, that's not going to get you an RR. So it has to have an actual functional impact on your assessment. The other thing that's really important is if it's something that you think might come up, so if you say sometimes when I do exams I get migraines, that's not an RR either. So if that's something that you have, go to a doctor, go to a GP and get a medical certificate or get it in writing from someone so we can put it in place. Just saying sometimes I throw up when I do English exams is not going to get you an RR. If you do have any questions, I will stick around, so feel free to come up. But other than that, I think that's my bit done.
Okay, so RA is very important, okay, because if RA is not in place, opportunities are missed for subject outcomes. Also what happens is if a student doesn't submit all the assessment pieces for their subject, they don't get their QCE credit. Okay, and sometimes a late submission without an RA is a no-go. Right, so once a student gets a not rated an NR for any one of those subject results, their QCE credit for that subject is 0. Okay, so don't let that happen. All right, the next part, specialist programs. All right, we've got 2 specialist programs. All our programs are special, I suppose. But we've got 2, Trade Futures program and Innovate Ag program. Now Mr. Burt's ears are going to be prickling up here. Okay, Trade Futures, which is that monstrosity of a building next door, okay, that you walked in. That's what the trade program is. Okay, they do essential English and essential math, industrial graphic skills, and then they do a mixture of, or they all do a Cert 2 engineering pathways. They all then choose different certs depending on their specialty. All right, so they might do Cert 2 in construction, or they might go engineering, boiler making, carpentry, that side of things. Okay, so that's Trade Futures. Innovate Ag, again, do essential English and essential math, ag practices, Cert 2 engineering pathways, and a Cert 3 in agriculture. All of which will get at least 24 credits if they're successfully completed and they pass every unit. Okay, these two programs run across a 5-day structure. All right, Monday to Friday. Innovate Ag in Year 12, they do a mentoring day on a Friday at this stage, where they go out to work placement. The Trade Futures program, once they get into the second half of Year 11, Year 12, beginning of Year 11, they can go straight into a mentoring day. Okay, because they've got the extra credits built into there. All right. Mr. Bert's up the back there. Lucky he's got a shiny head that I can see it nodding or going left or right. So how to apply for the specialist program. There's 25 places in the Trade Futures, and there's the same in Innovate Ag. At the moment, we've got the specific booklets for them and the applications for them there. Okay, because they are highly sought after programs. It is based on your written application and your demonstrated effort and behaviour in Year 10. Okay, we don't the relevance of level of achievement, so whether they're getting an A, B, C, D, or E in the subject, isn't the paramount or isn't the first criteria we use, because somebody in science may be a brilliant boilermaker. They just don't like science, so they're going to fail science or not get the best result in science, okay? Or whatever subject, I'll just use that as an example. So effort and behaviour are the two criteria that we use first, okay? And also attendance, all right? Because you need to be turning up. Which leads me, so is Brad here tonight? Oh, Wendy's here. Or Miss Ray. So Bruce and Wendy will be down here later to have a yarn to you if you're interested in either one of those two programs. So yes, the next one is the timetable. Right, so students studying so at the moment Year 10s, they do a 5-day week. Students studying specialist math will attend 5 days if they're doing specialist maths. And students studying 5 subjects, so 5 general subjects or a mixture of general and applied, will attend school on a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. All right, and Wednesday is an alternative learning day. It's not a flex day, it's an alternate learning day. So what does that mean? They can study from home or at school. They can come into school. All right, there's laptops available for them to do their independent work. They attend their school-based traineeship or apprenticeship on this day. They can't do paid work between 9 and 3. And the big thing is they'll be called upon to attend for organised events, i.e. athletics carnival, those sorts of things, or to attend for QCE support interventions. All right, so unfortunately Year 10s, they go, you beauty, I've got Wednesday off. And parents go, you little toad, I don't have Wednesday off, so you'll be working on a Wednesday. Okay? Now that is can be a little bit of a contentious issue in community. All right? Which I'll rip the Band-Aid off now. Why did we do this? We did it a few years ago for various reasons. The number one reason is the interest of the student. All right? Some students with their complexities or what's in their school bag, they need that middle day to reset, so then they've got Thursday, Friday. All right? I'd love to have Wednesday off to reset so that I can deal with Thursday, Friday. The other thing is school-based traineeship. There's no interruption to their subjects that they do, and community has been very supportive on being flexible on that Wednesday to have that day. And for QCE compliance, choose your subjects well, pass them all, QCE tick, and ATAR tick if you're getting an ATAR. Because when they calculate ATAR, they take your 5 top subjects. So what we were seeing in the old system was students would do 6 subjects, and then by the end of year 12, probably about 60% of students who were doing an ATAR pathway would drop their 6th subject to strengthen the other 5 subjects. All right? So that's a school-based decision that we've made a few years ago, and to be quite honest and open, I never tell a lie, it's working quite well for students. All right? Every year 12 student I interview, and I've done the interviews for the last 3 to 4 years, I ask them, how's the Wednesday going? And of course you get that, you beauty, it's great, I do nothing. All right? But that's okay, because they're passing their subjects. So they're not doing nothing. They think they're doing nothing, but I'm sure they're studying in between Netflix and Stan. Or they go, yep, it's really good because I treat it like a school day, and at 9 o'clock I log on, and at 3 o'clock I log off. Or at 9 o'clock I log on, and 12 o'clock I log off because there's 3 hours straight that I've done. All right? Or they go, yep, it's great because I do my school-based, and you know what, that's the future pathway that I'm on. Okay? And the only reason why I'm at school is for my school-based, and I don't have my licence yet. All right, so it's a timing thing, and they also want the Year 12 certificate. All right, so there is a lot of merit in the Wednesday alternate learning day. All right, any questions on that? Okay, choosing subjects. Choosing subjects, so we're coming to the end, thankfully. A set plan is a formal interview where students choose their subjects for 2025-2026. Students should choose their subjects based on realistic, and I say realistic a few times, realistic academic ability, okay? And I say realistic meaning I'm going to pick on English and math, okay? I do English. I don't even know whether that was good English. I study English. I don't study English. I study English in year 10 and I'm failing. And I go, no, I'm going to university, Santa Claus at the end of year 10 is going to deliver me some English knowledge, and I'm going to pass general English next year. I've chosen general English because I want to go to university, and it's just going to be a miracle. I'm going to pass general English in year 11 and 12. Okay, the correlation or the reality of that happening is about 10%. Because the work ethic and the focus on English in year 10, those habits are already set up, all right? And they're not magically going to change in year 11 and 12. Even though they go, I've got it, I understand what I've got to do now to get to university, I'm doing general English. Or they come along and they say, and it's probably going to sound a little bit crass, math. I'm in math. I don't want to go into essential math with those people over there. Okay, those people over there doing essential math or essential English, they're interesting characters. Okay, so I'm going to do general English and I'm going to do general math. All right, and unfortunately, I can probably bet my dollar on it that they're not going to succeed in those subjects. All right, and they will eventually go into essential math and essential English for 90% of the students who have chosen it for the wrong reason. All right, so I say be realistic in your academic ability. All right, because what also happens is our English curriculum pod and our math curriculum pod come along and actually look at your year 10 results and go, wrong answer, you're in the wrong subject. Not because they don't want you in their subject, because you're going to be doing an English or a math, but because you're not in the right level, okay? And it's not because it's just because you're not in the right level, all right? So if you get that level correct from the get-go, it makes your life in year 11 and 12 and the teacher's life and your parents' life a lot easier than I don't want to do this or it's too hard or whatever. Okay, so be realistic based on your current academic ability. Also choose subjects that you'll engage in and enjoy. Okay, you're here for 2 years doing these subjects. You need to enjoy it. Okay, and you need to, if you're on an ATAR pathway and you're going to university, you need to make sure that your subjects meet the prerequisites of your chosen course at this point in time. Alright, so if I'm going to do a Bachelor of Biomedical Science and it says I must study biology, alright, if I'm not doing biology, they're not going to look at me for the traditional way of getting to university. Alright? But in having said that, this is where the double-edged sword comes in. If I'm not good at biology, then I may be reassessing whether that biomedical science course is actually the reality for me. All right? So yes. So be realistic. The last piece of advice before I hand back to Mr. Hart is heed the advice of your set plan person. All right? They're there working with you, for you, not against you. All right? So they're going to be your realistic sounding board. So if you come to a set plan with me, and I say, look, Donald, I don't know whether general math is for you. You got a D on your report card. I don't think general math is going to be your right level of math, all right? Or you've done science and you've got an E and an E, all right, in year 10. I don't necessarily recommend you studying a science in year 11 and 12 when you've got an E in year 10, okay? That's not me being nasty, that's me holding your student to account, and that's me setting them up for future success, all right? Because ideally, I'd love everyone to go, yep, I want to do whatever 5 subjects I want to do, happy days, you can do it. And then they go, oh my goodness, I actually have to work for this result? This is not cool, okay? Which leads me to my last point. Year 11 and 12 is an exciting time for year 10 students at the moment. It's a big time, all right, but it's your first time where you can realistically choose all 5 subjects that you're going to study. All right, so make sure you engage in the process. Make sure you choose them based on where you want to be in 3, 4, 5 years' time, okay? Don't lock yourself into, I'm going to be a teacher or I'm going to be an engineer for the rest of my life, okay? Because at the end of the day, at this point in time, do what's best for you, because things change. People change careers a lot, all right? And it's a good thing because you keep learning and you keep moving forward, okay? So don't lock yourself into happily ever after in your set plan. Be realistic at this point in time with your demonstrated ability and keep as many doors open as you can because 11 and 12 is exciting. Okay, what happens next? Mr. Hart talks.
Not for too long, thankfully. A couple of key takeaways from what we've just heard, particularly around QCE and ARA. If you're not 100% sure about everything that was said tonight, that's fine. There's no problem with that because Mr. Schreiber is 100% sure about what QCE entails, and our guidos are on the money with ARA as well. The key things are, in grade 10, if you want to change your subject, you go along and talk to your HOI or your year coordinator. Once you hit grade 11, it's a one-stop shop, and that is Mr. Schreiber. He does all those subject changes, so that's a really important takeaway from what he spoke about. The other thing is around ARA. In grade 10, the majority of the ARA that we would use would be extensions, where people can't get an assessment in on a particular day because of a circumstance, or they can't be at school on the exam day because they're sick. In those instances, up to grade 10, you'd normally go to your curriculum head of department and you'd work it out with them. All right? Sometimes they'll seek advice from myself or the relevant DP around that, but you usually start that with the head of department. In year 11 and 12, you start conversations around that directly with the guidance officers. So that's probably the key things to remember as you head into year 11. Okay, so first I just want to quickly talk about the handbook. You've had the handbook emailed to you electronically a week or so ago. There are a few little updates in the handbook, particularly around the signature programs at the back and some of the content for those programs. So nothing too substantial, but a few little updates in the paper version. Just about how we've structured the handbook for you. Mr. Schreiber talked about, I guess, advice around choosing subjects. I think he had about 4 dot points on the screen. There's a few pages worth of advice at the front of this book, and sometimes people see that and they think, oh, I don't need to worry about that. I'm just going to go and pick my subjects. I know what I want to do. I would recommend having a bit of a read through that, because it does expand a little bit on what Mr. Schreiber talked about, and it gives you a chance to have a think about how you're going in grade 10, what you enjoy, what you don't enjoy, what you're achieving well at, and that can be a good sort of grounding for where you might head with that. You'll notice the way that the index, I suppose, the pages are structured is that the first thing you come across is English, all right? The reason for that is you need English. You must pick an English, and there's only a choice of 2. So we foreground that by putting English and Essential English first, because that's essentially the first choice you're going to need to make. Which English am I going to do? The maths are a little bit different because there's a number of different choices you can make around maths there. So we've included them with the main part of the book. The other thing that I will say about that is that in your set plan interview, you'll talk about where you're at with your English and your math, and you might make some selections, or you will make some selections about what English and math you want to do in year 11 and 12. We always review your results in English and math at the end of grade 10, and if we believe that the choice you've made in your set plan is not the correct choice, we will talk to you about changing that set plan so that the English or math that you chose at the time might not be the right one, and we might recommend that you look at a more achievable option. So you might hear in your set plan your interviewer say, look, you're telling me you want to do mathematical methods, you're not tracking that well in maths at the moment, but you are passing, all right? And there are actually some rules around prerequisite choices and what you need to be achieving in the handbook as well. I'm not going to go through all of those. But we might say to you, look, we'll put you in math methods at this point, but we're going to revisit that after the last piece of assessment. And if it's not going well, then your choice is going to have to be general maths or essential maths, whatever the case may be. So nothing's really locked in stone in terms of particularly your English and your math directly after set plan. They will be reviewed down the track. Then the rest of the booklet goes on, and you can see that it's divided up into the general subjects and then the applied subjects, and then some information about those signature programs and some vet subjects that we have. At the back, there is a subject selection form. It is not the form that you need to use to make your subject selection. It is simply there so that you can do a practice run, because you will make your subject selections in your set plan interview. Right, it will happen there. So you can bring your handbook along with you, or a photograph of that page where you've crossed them out and all that sort of thing, that's fine. all right? And at the moment, that is our line structure. But you'll notice on that page that there's a bit of a disclaimer there. That's only an example. We'll use that for set planning at the moment. That's how our lines are structured on one school. But basically, we need to wait and see how many students we have. All right, there may be situations where we simply don't have enough students to run a subject, or there may be a situation where we've got so many students on one line that have picked this subject, and on another line, they can't get their choice because of whatever reason. So sometimes we shuffle subjects around after the fact, and that can have an impact on people's choices, but we usually do it for the benefit of the majority of students. At the moment, that's the line structure. That's what we're going to use for set planning, but just a little disclaimer that it can change down the track, all right? But we'll let you know about that. Okay, so we've talked a bit about set plan interviews. The set plan interviews are a 20-minute interview that you and your students will have with one of our 10-person team that are conducting those interviews. That team consists of our guidance officers, our deputy principals, both at this campus and at Bunya campus, the head of campus at Bunya campus as well, and I think I've covered everyone there, and our DPs, of course. All right, so what will happen tomorrow morning is you will all be emailed an email to do with set planning. Basically, there will be a web link, a URL, that directs you to what we call SOBS. SOBS is our online booking site. If any of you have ever booked a parent-teacher interview before, you would have used SOBS. All right, so you'll be quite au fait with that technology. If you haven't, it's pretty straightforward. You click on the URL or the web link, it takes you to a page, Dalby State High School page. You log in with your email address, and there'll be instructions with this as well. The instructions will come as an attachment, and it guides you through pretty easily. If you've already used the system before, it will recognise your email, and it will probably also recognise your student. The only thing we found yesterday when we did a test on this is that if you haven't used it this year, it may still think that your student is in grade 9. So therefore, when you click on your student, nothing happens because there's no set plan booking module there because it thinks they're in grade 9. So you click on the student, and if it drops down and says, well, what year level are they in? You click year 10, and then a box will pop up and it says DSHS set planning 24 into 25, something like that. Once you click on that, it will bring up the whole week, well, it will bring up all the interviewers' names. And those interviewers' names are identified by their role. So my name would have Jeff Hart there, after it will have DP. Dom's name would be there, and after that would be GO, all right? What I would like you to remember is just some things about particular people you might want to directly target in terms of them being your interviewer. If you are wanting to go into trade futures, I would strongly recommend that you select Mr. Marini as your interviewer. If you would like to go into Innovate Ag, I would suggest that you select Mr. Farrow as your interviewer. And if you are really not sure what's going on and where you're at and what you need to be doing next year, I'd suggest that you probably put Mr. Schreiber as your person. He's, as you can tell tonight, he's the most knowledgeable around getting people in the right pathway. If your student has any of those complexities that Dom talked about earlier, and you think that ARA or long or having a little bit of management from a guido along might be appropriate, then I'd say that you select guidance officers and their GO after their name. If you're in the middle of all of that, happy with where you think you're going, or not quite sure, but there's no other sort of issue, pick any of our DP team and we'll get you through. So you'll receive the email tomorrow The bookings will be open pretty as of tomorrow morning. You get that email so you can go on 20-minute slots Monday to Friday. For the most part, they school day, so it's usually from about 8:30 past 5, which I with everybody. If you can't make a parent, but you're you a booking, students have been told once they make a booking, they student window, they let officers there know that they've got it. They'll get a slip class, they'll come down to the office. If you're able to be there, they'll meet with you and then you often do your set plan. If you're not able to meet them there, but you phoned in, just tell them, tell us, we'll give you a call over the phone. If you don't have access to like SOBs at home, internet access or what have you, you can always call the school office, that's fine. Anyone can call up, we'll help you out, we'll make a booking for you. Okay, if there are things, I'm not going to obviously go through this document, but if there are things in there you're not sure of, please come and talk to me tonight, ask questions. Our HODs are about to go and take up their positions at their relevant displays, and I'm going to hang around at the front. So if you've got any specific questions or you're not sure who to be directed to, come and talk to me, I'll help you out. Last thing I want to say, because we won't reconvene to finish the night, we'll finish up now. I want to thank you all for coming. This is probably one of the largest turnouts we've had for the last few years, which is good. So thank you, because it shows that you and your students are really interested in what their pathway might be into year 11 and 12. So I appreciate you coming out in the cold. Please remember my initial advice. Ask as many questions from as many relevant people as you need to, and hop online tomorrow and start booking those set plan interviews. All right, thank you.